Hey, it's Jason Lynette here, and in the words of Blaine Pascal, I would have written a shorter letter, but I did not have the time. So I just want to give one final comment on this thread, and I thought by doing it as a video, I can drive my point across even greater. And I've got some notes here. Understand, I'm somebody who actually now has a personal representative at Facebook that I'm allowed to call. This is something that when you reach a certain threshold of advertising spending, they reward you by giving you your own sort of concierge style of service, which I don't really know if that's something I should be bragging about. It means I've spent a lot of money on Facebook. And admittedly, anything I've ever asked this woman that's my rep now, it's all turned out to, of course, be information that's readily available to all of you. You just have to Google it. And I'm looking at some notes here of some things that I've jotted down here. In my conversations directly with Facebook, and man, that sounds like a cool statement. In my conversations with Facebook, it's consistently reinforced that their number one goal is the user experience. Yes, there's an advertising arm of it. Yes, you're seeing stuff all over the place in terms of their money. But their number one goal is the user experience. So because of that, similar to the format that Google and YouTube, which are kind of the same thing, have their own different algorithms in terms of how information is distributed and how things show up inside of search engines. Facebook just as well has an algorithm style of format that basically when you're doing stuff the way that they want you to do it, they reward you. Sounds familiar, right? They reward you by making sure your content gets seen. And when you're not doing things the way they'd like you to be doing it, they're not punishing you, but you don't tend to show up as much. So the number one thing to highlight here is content. And this is where, I'm just going to lay it out there. This is where most people say, I've tried Facebook advertising or any platform and just say it doesn't work. It's very rarely the platform, it's most often the strategy. What are most people doing? They're posting one advertisement, one thread trying to promote something. They're sending people to their homepage, which is not optimized in a format to actually convert the interested person into a buying customer. It's much too early in the relationship. It's like trying to consummate the marriage on the first date. That's what most people are doing wrong. And then they do it, they get frustrated, and then they like to sit around and say, this stuff doesn't work, when the strategy is what was wrong. So the strategy instead needs to be that you always begin with content. You create content that people are going to be interacting with. This is an unofficial number, but I tend to want to make sure I'm putting out 5 or 6 pieces of content for any one offer that I'm presenting. So for example, the trade term for this, by the way, is what's being deemed a blending of content and commerce, which that's what Work Smart Hypnosis is. That's what I do. There is a podcast with all sorts of resources and interviews and tips and tricks and techniques for change and business strategies. And then only after you've listened to the entire thing does there finally come maybe a 30-second pitch for go to this website and check this thing out. Content is always first. Which, by the way, this is how you effectively get page likes, because you're sharing content that people are interacting with. The same as I'm doing a webinar tonight, and my number one goal, Facebook's number one goal is the user experience. My number one goal of this webinar I'm doing tonight is to teach the information that I've promised I'm going to teach. And of course, at the end of it, I'm going to then promote specific training that I've got coming up later this year. That's how it works. The same as you watch a television program on TV, and you also, as the radio stations would say, is let's take a break to pay the bills. So when you're sharing quality content that people are engaging with, liking, sharing, commenting on, that's when your stuff begins to organically appear more. End of story. Or you can also pay to play. Though someone commented on the number of likes on the Work Smart Hypnosis page. It's helpful to point out right now the campaign that I'm currently running yesterday, today, into this evening's event. I have split that campaign to a cold audience, which are all the people in hypnosis that have not liked the Work Smart Hypnosis page, and then an identical campaign is running to people who have already liked my page. And just to give you the rough numbers, the people who are signing up for the webinar that I'm doing tonight who have already liked my page, I am spending 1/3 less to get those people to sign up for that webinar than I am the cold traffic of people who have not yet liked my page. And as a side note, because the primary piece of content, there's that word again, that primary piece of content that's getting people to interact and sign up for this webinar is actually a 7-minute video. Oh, but people won't watch long videos online. No, it's a 7-minute video where I'm specifically teaching something and only at the end referencing, here's the webinar, here's how you sign up. So why do people say this stuff doesn't work? Because they're trying to consummate the marriage on the first date. You got to build the relationship, which, by the way, I've never really done the strategy with Work Smart Hypnosis to get people to like my page. I've never paid for that strategy. Instead, I'm either boosting the post of a podcast session, content, and people are interacting with and then organically clicking like, rather than the quote page like ad, which is what I see so many people doing in hypnosis, and they've got no strategy. They got a bunch of darts to throw, but they don't have a dartboard yet. Send them to quality content. Begin to cultivate the relationship. Maybe you'll get a page like out of that. That's not the end goal here. The goal then is, as they're engaging with that content, to now begin to engage with you. So, direct example, I'm doing a webinar tonight. Sign up for it. It's going to be fun. And then from that engagement, only then can we get to that place of possible conversion or continuing the relationship when there's something else that comes down the pipeline, which is more appropriate for that individual. So I want you to hear all this stuff that I just said and realize that just a single post ain't a social media strategy. A single sign up for my class is probably going to get the same amount of monetary conversion as the lack of time you really put into that strategy. Content is king. And Facebook, #1 goal is that user experience. And from that, when you are working to provide your potential customers an even better user experience, now you are a brand that they know, like, and trust, rather than just trying to sell them a bunch of crap that they don't know that they need yet. That's the difference. That's how you make this stuff work. Seacrest out.